All right, are we live?
I think so, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for joining us for another Better Business Conversations live session. Jen and I are here today to talk about the benefits of having a client application process. So setting yourself up for success as a practitioner means ensuring that you are working with the right clients. And of course, what the right client means is going to mean something different to every different practitioner. And there's so many factors to consider when we think about what it means to find the right client. So whether you're looking for alignment with values or personality, you have some common goals that you can kind of work towards together, or they fit with your area of expertise and what you've specialized in for your niche. So when we think about this, you've likely had the experience of working with clients who just aren't the right fit, and you know how challenging that can be. It just feels incongruent and maybe a little bit forced. I know that I've been there for sure. So not only does it impact the experience for both you and the client, it just makes it much harder to get the results that you're after when you're working with somebody who maybe doesn't fit the right client definition for you. So one way to ensure that you're working with the right clients is to implement a client application process. And that's what we wanted to chat with you guys about today. So this is a part of, or a process that can take part I guess before your discovery call or even before your initial consultation. And it's going to allow you to gauge whether the prospective client is the right fit for you and your business. So what you could do is introduce a form into your practice that you'll send to all prospective clients to collect information. So this type of information could look like understanding their main health goals and concerns, any roadblocks or challenges that they faced along the way, if they've worked with a practitioner or a coach previous to you and what they liked or didn't like, and how that went for them, their willingness to change. So what they're like, how intense is their desire to change? What are they willing to kind of prioritize and do? And also their willingness to commit financially in their health. So all important considerations that you'll want to vet before you begin working with a client. So overall, a client application process will just ensure that they're a qualified prospect and someone that's worth spending your time working with and speaking to. We know that our time is just a limited resource. We only have so much to go around. So we want to make sure that we're working with the right people. And we also think that gathering this information ahead of time will set you up for success during the sales process and allow you to understand the prospect in a more in-depth way. So we're going to be chatting about 4 kind of main benefits to implementing a client application process in your health and wellness business. So Jen is going to share that first one with us.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Britt. Yeah, I think this is such a good topic and so important to really, like you were saying, set both you and the client up for success, in that sales process, or even if you do decide to work together. So yeah, so the first thing I was going to mention is, we kind of touched on it, but just to kind of go further into it a little bit, it's just really that it will help to gauge if it's the right fit on both sides. So for both you as a practitioner and for the client, because it's equally important to have that fit on both sides, right? And that, having that right fit is so essential to both your experience and your client's success. So yeah, gathering information using a form, like Britt was sort of sharing, the type of questions that you could ask prior to your first interaction. So maybe that's again before the discovery call, something of that nature, that will really allow you to understand what some of their main concerns are. And if this is something you can actually help them solve, right? Because having that fit with your own niche and expertise and even scope of practice is so important, because you don't want to get into that, maybe first session, they've paid to work with you, and then you find out that it's not the right fit in terms of, what they actually need help with. So getting really clear on what their goals are and what they need help with to make sure that it's the right fit before you even move forward is so, so important. In that application process, you'll also be able to gauge if they are and you are aligned with each other's values, right? So that's another key piece. The personality fit is also really important. So you could even throw some questions in there that may, help you learn a little bit more about their personality, as well as the style of coaching. So that's why that question around, if they've worked with another practitioner in the past and what their experience was like could be helpful. And, maybe you could throw in some like unique questions to your style of coaching that would help sort of gauge if that works for them or if they're comfortable with that. that, maybe in terms of, your expectations of them and all of that kind of thing. It's just really helpful to, just keep ensuring that it's the right fit on both sides.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned a fit on both sides, because it is really important that the client is the right fit for us, but also that we're the right practitioner for them. And oftentimes they'll get more exposure to us than we have of them. They're seeing our social media and our website and all of that prior to, but it's really nice to have that first kind of introduction to them to make sure that your time is well spent and you can help people get those outcomes. The other one that we want to talk about is just getting a sense of their commitment levels. So within your client application form, you can also include questions that are going to help you understand the commitment levels of your prospective client. So I kind of briefly touched on that, but you'll want to learn what their commitment looks like when it comes to a willingness to change, which we know can be really difficult for clients, but also their financial commitment. So getting a sense of these areas of commitment will tell you if the prospect is serious about making the changes and they need to do to improve their health, as well as if they have the resources to do so. So I think just knowing this ahead of time will help mitigate any time spent with a prospective client who isn't actually ready to take action to move forward. And I think even just having that acknowledgement from a client where they're signing off on something or they're verbally committing to something just ties them to it a little bit more in terms of accountability. So posing that question to them, I think everybody feels like they're ready and willing to change, but putting that extra question in there will remind them that this is a commitment that they need to make, and there will be some hard change involved sometimes, or it will feel a little bit difficult sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think even, with that sort of commitment to change, like even having this application in place, just in general, regardless of the questions, it'll sort of tend to weed out anyone who isn't ready to commit, right? Because they see, maybe they had a thought of, oh, I'll just book the discovery call, like, maybe not too serious about it. But then if they see an application, it may just, up the seriousness of it in terms of, their commitment and that kind of thing. So I love that one. I think that's so important. And another one I wanted to mention is just kind of going back to that point we briefly mentioned at the beginning about the sort of the sales process. So having this application in place can sort of create almost better positioning for you in that, selling process. So the client application can really set the tone for the dynamic between you and the prospective client during that sales process. So instead of it all being on you as a practitioner to, quote unquote, sell the client on you and your services, the client will also be invited to, quote unquote, sell themselves to you in that application. And so by inviting the client to show how they are the right fit for you in that application, it creates almost a more like equal process and allows you to connect with the prospective client on that similar dynamic, like that sort of similar wavelength, which I think can be really, really helpful. It will help, that you're able to then go into these conversations as a practitioner without a belief that you have to almost like convince the client that they should work with you. Because I think, especially if you're a practitioner just starting out, that can definitely be a thought that comes up. And if you're maybe not 100% confident yet, then that can definitely creep in that you sort of want to like convince this person to work with you, and they'll feel that energy, right? In that conversation, if you have any air of that, they'll pick up on it. And so having this application to sort of create that really balanced and equal dynamic, it can then help positively impact your own energy going into that conversation. And then, of course, then the success of that conversation, would be more positive, just in that they can really pick up on, anything sort of wonky that you have going on with your energy around it. So yeah, just having that application can really just create that more equal place for you both to come to that initial conversation from.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I really like that feeling of not having to convince, and the sales process, I think, will just feel a little bit more genuine and less icky, which I know people get really hung up on. The last one that we want to share with you guys here is just that you kind of get a leg up by starting this way. So by having that client application process, you're really setting yourself up for success if the client does choose to move forward and you choose to move forward with that client as well. So gaining insight with your prospective client obviously helps you make sure that there's a good fit, but it will also set you up for success. So, you'll know the client just a little bit better, where you'll be able to curate the onboarding process to fit their needs. So maybe you learn why it didn't work out with the previous practitioner, and that can kind of give you direction as to how you better need to support them this time around. It'll also allow you to prepare for, say, that discovery session or that first initial consultation again, because you know a little bit more prior to those first sessions with them. So with that, you'll be able to ask more informed and pointed questions and just keep that initial call really streamlined and successful. So yeah, you can just really think of it as giving yourself that kind of leg up before you even get started, so that you can better support and kind of hone in on the type of support that you're offering for that client that is the right fit. All right, so as we have shared, and I hope you guys have kind of picked up on, implementing a client application process is just really beneficial for both you and the client. So, collecting information from the prospective client ahead of time is just, maybe you can think of it as an important cornerstone of any successful health business, because it's going to ensure that that client is the right fit. It's going to help you kind of, like Jen was saying, have that more equal relationship dynamic, so that there's not this element of having to convince them to work with you. And it just really helps set you guys both up for success if you do move forward working together. So hopefully this is something that we've kind of intrigued you with. And Jen is going to actually walk us through what a client application form could look like, and something that you could introduce into your practice.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we're actually going to share, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to do a little sneak peek into Practice Better, into the platform. And I'm going to show you, exactly what Britt said, how a client application form can look and sort of how that works in Practice Better. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And Britt, just let me know if you can see that all right.
Yeah, that looks good.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, for anyone who is maybe new to Practice Better, this is what our practitioner dashboard looks like when you first log in. However, today, like we said, we're going to stick to looking at a client application form. So in Practice Better, you can actually build your own custom forms and waivers, as well as use different existing templates that we have built. So I'm just going to head over to forms and waivers. Now I have a bunch that I've already created here, and I'm going to use this client application form. So this is one I've created just as an example to highlight what you could do if you wanted to implement a client application process in Practice Better. So I'm going to go in and edit just so you can see the form builder itself. So there's a lot you can do with our form builder, which is amazing. You have the option to add a ton of different types of form questions and elements, which are all just on the right-hand side here. So I'm just going to scroll down so you can sort of see a few of them that I've built into this form. So you could obviously are going to want to collect the information of the client who's applying for your services. You can choose to include or not include these questions, but that's a great way to, make sure you have all the info you need about them. And then just scrolling down here, so we have a couple just short response questions. So this will allow the client to just type in their response. What is their main health concern, their main health goal? Have they come across any roadblocks or challenges? So just some of those things we were talking about earlier. You can also do a scale. So in this case, we've asked what are their current stress levels. It may depend on the type of niche or service you offer. You could tweak that question, but that's just an example to, use one of the other form elements that's a little more quantitative versus qualitative to gauge, sort of where they're at and help, determine if it's the right fit. And then just a question around, are they willing to invest their time and money in a solution for their health concern? Again, just really speaking to that commitment level piece that we talked about earlier. And then just the last question, another short answer, just around, anything else they'd like to share with you. But yeah, this is just an example of what you could do to really build your own custom client application form. These are just, a couple of questions that I put in, but you could really totally customize and build whatever type of questions you want into an application form. And the nice thing about really having this form built in Practice Better is that you can deliver this to your client, to your prospective client very, very easily. And I'm going to show you in a minute, like the different ways you could actually share that with them and have them fill it out, but it's all virtual. So they'll, kind of come to the form, they'll just complete it right online, and then you'll receive a notification that you've got a new application. And then you can, look at that, right, all from the Practice Better platform or even from the mobile app. So it's just a really seamless experience for both, you and the prospective client versus, maybe having a downloadable document that they need to actually, fill in by hand or, whatever it might be. So it just creates a really nice process. Okay, so I'm just gonna exit out of this form and just share and highlight a couple different ways that you could actually then, share that application form with your prospective clients once you've built it out. So the first, so this is the form here. So the first is just to send to a client. Now, this would be if it's someone that's already in your Practice Better system. So maybe you've worked with them for another service or, whatever it might be, you could actually send it directly to them. But otherwise, I'm just going to click the three dots here, and there's a couple different options. So the share link. So this is going to basically generate a public form link for your form. So what you could do is, copy this link, and you could use this anywhere from, your website, behind a button, to, your newsletter, maybe your social media. And what you can actually do is toggle on this create short link option, and that just shortens that link for you so that you could include that on your social media bio even, because often there's, a lesser character count available. So you could use that option. So really you can just use this link anywhere that you want to actually share the link to that form. The client would basically just click that link and they'd be able to easily complete that form. So that's one option that you have. So I'm just going to go visit page so you can sort of see exactly what this would look like to the client who is going to be filling out your form. And as you can see here, it's just a really nice, clean form that they can just go in and complete right online virtually. And then they'd submit that, and then you'll get the notification once that is completed. Another option that I did want to mention that you could do to share your form is actually embed your form on your website. So we have an option to do that, and that will allow the client to actually complete the form right on your website versus being directed to the separate page. So if you want to keep it really extra streamlined and take out an extra step, you could just embed that right onto your website. They'll fill it out right there, and they won't ever have to leave your site. So that's a really, really nice option as well. So yeah, that's just a little bit about a client application form and how you could set that up and Practice Better, how you could have your prospective clients complete it. And we also, I'll just mention, have a couple different ways that you could also send this form automatically. You can also attach it as what's called a booking page form. So that would ensure that the client has to complete the form right at the time of booking. So that's another option for you as well. So yeah, there's a few different ways that you can really facilitate that. That'll just streamline that process and create a really nice experience for both you and the client. All right, I think that's it. Britt, anything else that you think is worth mentioning on that front?
I think you covered it all. I love the idea of the booking page form. That's my favorite way of ensuring you get this information at the right time. But yeah, I think Jen, you covered everything beautifully. So I think that's kind of it for today.
Awesome. So I'll just stop sharing my screen here. Amazing. So yeah, I hope, we hope that was helpful for all of you. Let us know in the comments below if you're joining us live or if you're watching the replay, what resonated with you most. If, we'd be curious to hear if you already do a client application process, or maybe what was your biggest takeaway from our session today. If you do have any questions at all about what we covered, about the Practice Better platform, please reach out to us anytime at help@practicebetter.io. We'd also love for you to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe and share as well. And yeah, we'll be back again next month for another BBC Better Business Conversations live session.